Howdy. So welcome back. What we had talked about last time was going and getting flat text data, so .txt data from the internet for some of the zip codes in South Florida, and then also getting CSV files from the American Community Survey and making sure that all of those files are local to your computer. So these are, you can see here that I have a project. So I'm in an RStudio project. This is my RStudio project for this class, or particularly for the textbook for this class. And then inside, I have a folder called data, and this is where I have my text files. You won't have the .csv files yet. You're going to make those as an assignment, and I think probably the next lesson, or maybe I don't know, maybe this lesson, maybe the next lesson. Um, but you should have the TXT files of the Broward zip codes. So this one, or whatever county you're interested in. And then also there is a folder here that this is the data that came from the American Community Survey. So that's what ACS stands for. And then this is the data itself. You can see it's 2.7 megs, so medium-sized file. And this is what it looks like. And we want to get this data into RStudio. So how do we do that? Um, I was saying before that we don't usually like point and click interfaces because you don't have a record of what you did. This point and click interface, however, is different. And I'll show you what we're talking about here. We can go through the point and click interface in RStudio, and it will give us code. It will literally write code to do what we did through the point and click interface. Okay. And now we're going to use, we see when we go to import the data set right here. So we want a data set, and I'm going to say import the data set. And then my option that I'm going to choose is from text using the readr package. Now, why am I going to use the readr package? So the readr package is out of the tidyverse, and it has three goals. Number one, to be faster than the base R data import. And these use read.csv or read.delim. So read.delim is for txt files. Read.csv is for CSV files. And then also the readr package does not import as one of those old school data frames. These import as old school data frames. The readr package gives us a tibble. So we get all of the nice, pretty functionality that we get from tibbles. We learned a lot about that in the last lesson on lists and tibbles. And the other thing is some of these functions have kind of not inconsistent behavior, moving from Macs in one part of the world to Windows in another part of the world. And it's called locale specific operations. And the readr package, they're designed to basically work the exact same way, no matter what computer you're on, no matter where you are in the world. So just things to think about. The functions that we're going to pay attention to, read_delim, this is for .txt files, and read_csv, this is for, like I said, .csv files. Technically, we can look at read_tsv for .txt files, but really it's usually just going to be read_delim. So let's go ahead, and we're looking at a window like this over here. So how did I get here? Over here in my environment pane up at the top right, I clicked on import dataset, and then I said I want to import from text readr. And right here, I need to browse to find the file. So this is one of the important things about working in projects in RStudio. If you're working in RStudio projects, then you're not going to have to hunt through your computer to find the data. You can see right here, it's going to open directly to very close to where my data is. Oh, hey, look, there's my data. So there's my data folder, and I want to get the American Community Survey data, and then I want this one, just this data file, and it tells me, yeah, this is the big one, 2.9 megs. I'm going to click open, and it'll take a minute to do the data preview because the file's a little bit large. But notice what's happening over here, that it's giving me a code preview as well. And this code preview, this is what we're going to keep to make sure that what we're doing is reproducible. okay? So here are a bunch of options for how we want to import the data, but this is the most important thing. We're going to make sure that we keep this because it is a record in code of all of the options that we choose over here. First option was, where is the data? And it just wrote the code for that automatically for us. So here's a couple of things in this window. Number one, the data preview. That's this business right here. And we want to make sure, like, okay, is the stuff that's coming in, is it being imported correctly? And we can see that kind of no, it's not, because these are counts, but you see they're coming in as character. And the reason why is because ACS data actually has 2 rows of column names. So there's the first row of column names and then another row of column names. And R will then remember based on the fact that columns within a tibble have to be atomic. It's going to look at this and it's going to see character information here, and it's going to promote everything to be character information. This is not what we want. So we're going to have to figure out a way around this. And that's the readr package, is identifying the data type for each column, and it looks at the first 1,000 rows. And again, notice here that everything is a character, but we don't want that, okay? So if you think, for instance, that this shouldn't actually be a character, if this should be, I don't know, something else, like a factor, for instance, we could totally make a factor here, but we would have to specify. Again, remember that whenever you make factors, factors have to come from a list or like the set of values. And so we would have to be able to put in that set of values right here. I'm not going to do that right now. Let's see what else. The import options. Okay, so that's this window down here. Obviously, I think I want to give a better name to this. What did I choose in the notes? Oh yes, Florida all zips. So this is where I would type. I would type FL underscore all zips and then DF. And then notice the code doesn't update until I hit tab. And as soon as I hit tab, then it updates the code preview over here. And so this is important right here. Note, because there are 2 rows of header information, we will have to set skip equals 1 for this data. So that's this one right here, because it's still pulling in this top row and the second row, and it doesn't understand, R doesn't know how to import 2 different rows of column names. So we're actually going to set the skip to be 1. We're going to skip this first row and then hit tab again. And notice this geographic area name is now going to get promoted up to the column name. Well, take a minute. There we go. Geographic area name. Notice though, notice what happened. This column stayed character, but now I've got double information over here. So this is numeric. This is numeric. I've got numeric over here. I've got a whole bunch of numeric information that I didn't have before because that first row was an extra set of character information. And so this is what our code preview looks like. And what is super important is that we copy this. So this button right here says copy to the clipboard. So I'm going to copy this to the clipboard. I'm going to hit cancel because I don't need the code right here, but I'm going to make sure, oh, remember Control-Shift-N or Command-Shift-N on Mac to create a new script. Go down and then paste this code. And the formatting here is kind of terrible. They don't even follow their own style guide, which is a little bit frustrating. Let's see. So let's fix this. And I don't want the view, so just get rid of this. Also, because the readr package already comes in the tidyverse, I'm just going to load the tidyverse instead. Now, notice I haven't done anything yet. It just wrote the code for me. So if I want to run this, well, what do we do? Run this. Let's watch what happens. Get our nice colorful messages down here saying the tidyverse was loaded. And now we run the data import. And it's going to give us all of this extra information over here to say, oh, hey, check it out. We've got our delimiter was a comma. And here we've got 236 columns with character information. and 222 columns with numeric information. And we see here that we've got 10,000, or I'm sorry, 1,013 observations and 459 variables. So we didn't get this whenever we were just looking at the Excel spreadsheet before. But we now have the code to import the data. All right. Now I'm going to say this is not reproducible yet because we're pointing to data that only lives on our computer, but it is at least reproducible, i.e., we could run this over and over and over and over again and get the same results every single time. So let's, yeah, and this is now your exercise. I want you to import that same data into R on your own. And let me see, this is probably a good place to pause. Yeah, before we get into the tab delimited data. Actually, you know what? Let's just keep going because these are pretty short. So we also have the zip code data, and that's using read underscore TSV for tab separated values, or you can use read delim. But that's your exercise to do. I want you to go through this process in the same script. So you wouldn't have to load the library again, but let's add a comment, and this would be the ACS snap data. And then you have another section, ACS snap data for Florida. And then you'd have some code here, and this would be county zip codes, county zip code tables for Miami, Dade, and Broward counties. And if you got Palm Beach or you got another county, you would add that in here as well. And so you'd go through the same process. Import data set, you would find the data where it is. If you're using a project, which you absolutely should be using a project, then there should be a folder called data. Now mine is called underscore data. Don't worry about that. You can just call yours data. So yeah, anyway, this should be a script, and you should have a script where you can import all of your data sets all from the script. And then if you needed to share this with someone, you would share the data sets and you would share the script, and then they would be able to reproduce what you did. So next section, and this is, you know what, I will comment on this right here. So I'm going to take a look at these zip codes. So we see here that, well, let me just click on this. You see how this says ZCTA5 space 32003, but the zip codes just say zip code 33004. They don't really match. So nothing over here says ZCTA5 space and then the number. And then like nothing over here says ZCTA5, and nothing over here just says zip code space. So even though these numbers may be the same, we would be able to find the match between 32003 and then there'd be a 32003 somewhere. We wouldn't be able to join this information. Okay, so that's an important point here. We're going to cover how do we fix that in the stringer lesson, which will be later. It'll be in a couple of lessons. Alrighty then. Next time we're going to talk more about what it is to be tidy, what it is to have your data as tidy data. Alrighty then. See you soon.